I chose solitude to heal. Breaking that silence pulled me into a relationship where love felt less like connection and more like responsibility for someone else's survival. Hey viewers, before we move on the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I'm a 23-year-old guy, and for the last 2 years, I've been single by choice. Not because I couldn't find anyone or because I was jaded or heartbroken. I just chose quiet. I chose routine. I chose work, hobbies, and solitude. I chose long stretches of uninterrupted time when my thoughts were my own, my days were predictable, and my energy belonged to me. That choice didn't come from nowhere. It came from exhaustion, from years of emotional noise, from navigating people, expectations, and disappointments. Achi saw me point. Being alone stopped feeling lonely and started feeling like oxygen. Then life shifted. My work went remote. What used to be structured and externally paced became blurred. I was technically productive, but my days stretched into each other. I was putting in 12 to 14 hours a day, but with diminishing returns. The isolation crept in quietly. I didn't notice it at first, because isolation can feel comfortable when you get used to it. But over Chimi, something started to rot under the surface. I realized I wasn't talking to people anymore, not really. I wasn't laughing. I wasn't social. I was functional, but hollow. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I joined online social platforms, servers, group calls, casual conversations with strangers who didn't know my past and didn't expect anything from me. It felt harmless, temporary, a pressure release valve. Over a couple of months, I made a decent number of mates. Nothing deep, nothing intense, just voices in my headphones while I worked or unwound. She was one of them. She was quiet, mostly listened, stayed muted during group calls, laughed softly when someone made a joke, rarely interrupted. The kind of presence that doesn't demand attention but feels oddly consistent. She was just there. I didn't think much of it. Until one day, out of nowhere, she wasn't quiet anymore. She started fanboying. That's the word she used herself later. But at the time, it felt surreal. She'd ping me constantly in group chats, praise me excessively, hype me up for things that really didn't warrant it. Compliments layered on compliments, jokes turned into admiration, admiration turned into fixation. At first, I genuinely thought it was satire. Online spaces thrive on irony. People exaggerate for laughs, so I laughed it off. But the behavior didn't stop. It intensified. I asked a few guys who'd known her for a long time if this was normal. They told me plainly that it wasn't. That she sometimes latched on like this, that it could mean something or nothing but. Either way, it tended to get messy. I didn't want to embarrass her publicly, and I didn't want to assume intent. So I told a mutual friend to gently advise her to dial it back if she wasn't too serious. It was making me uncomfortable. And apparently, a few others too. That's when everything went sideways. She got sentimental in public, emotional, vulnerable in a way that felt raw and exposed. The tone shifted from playful to personal, from joking admiration to something heavy and uncontained. So I confronted her privately, and she confessed her feelings. I didn't panic. I didn't reject her outright. I listened. She told me she'd grown attached, that I made her feel seen, that she admired me, my voice, my presence, the way I spoke. She spoke with sincerity, not manipulation, not pressure, just honesty. I told her the truth. I hadn't planned on dating anyone. I'd been single for 2 years by choice. I was burnt out, just coming out of social isolation, juggling long work hours, barely keeping balance as it was. But I also didn't want to dismiss her feelings. So I suggested we go on a date. Just one, no promises, no commitments, just to see where things went. And honestly, the dates were good, surprisingly good. She was kind, thoughtful, gentle in ways that didn't feel performative. She did charity work, helped the poor and needy, gave her time and energy to people who couldn't give her anything back. She poured effort into everything she touched. Every single day, without fail, she wrote me letters. Actual letters. They always started the same way. Dear X, 200 to 400 words, sometimes more, about her day, about things she noticed, about how she felt, about us. Even when she was tired, even when life was chaotic, the letters came. We talked for hours, watched movies together, series, shared music, late night conversations that drifted between silly and serious. On the surface, it looked like the beginning of something real, but underneath that surface was something much heavier. She told me about her past, parental neglect, crushing expectations. And then the part that still makes my chest tighten when I think about it, serial rape and sexual assault, beginning at age 9 and continuing into her late teens, by a close relative, enforced through blackmail. It wasn't something she revealed all at once. It came in fragments, pieces that surfaced during vulnerable moments. Each revelation felt like being handed something fragile and radioactive at the same time. The trauma cascaded into diagnoses, BP. She'd been on medication prescribed by her therapist, but the side effects were brutal. Memory loss, dissociation, a constant sensation, in her words, that her brain was on fire. Eventually, she paused the meds and tried coping through other means affirmations, hobbies, grounding techniques. I admired her resilience. I really did, and I told myself I was strong enough to handle this. Her feelings for me were intense, unwavering. I thought maybe stability was something I could offer. But almost immediately after the first date, the pressure started. Indirect questions about commitment, friends giving me pep talks on her behalf, conversations that circled back to labels, exclusivity, reassurance. I wasn't ready. I wanted more time, more dates, space to feel my own feelings before committing to something that clearly meant everything to her. Whenever I didn't give her a clear answer, she spiraled. Panic attacks, emotional breakdowns, that hollow, abandoned tone I later learned aligned with the wave traits of BPD. It wasn't manipulative. It was desperate, terrifyingly so. And it wounded both of us. I started feeling like I had to man up. Like the solution was always another date, another reassurance, another emotional patch to stop the bleeding. But each time I did, the cycle repeated. More closeness, more pressure, another spiral. I gave myself a private deadline, 3 months. Either I commit fully or I walk away cleanly. No dragging it out. We talked for 2.5 months, met 5 times. I showed up. I was present. I tried, but something was happening to me in the background. I was sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night, working 12 to 14 hours a day, spending every remaining moment talking to her, comforting her, engaging with her. My me time vanished. The hobbies that once grounded me disappeared. The quiet that once felt nourishing became impossible. I felt like I was dissolving into someone else's emotional ecosystem. A week before everything ended, she spiraled again. She was crying, sounding genuinely shattered, and I lied. I told her what she needed to hear to calm down. I told myself, this is just my life now. Love will grow over time. And for a moment, everything was calm, peaceful, clear skies. But inside me, something was screaming to retreat, to isolate, to reclaim myself. The pressure from work intensified. The emotional demand never eased. And one day, I broke. I left after a date. I didn't ghost without explanation. I left the noche. I explained my side. I said I needed to be alone. That it wasn't about her worth. That I couldn't do this. Then I deleted my socials, blocked her number. I carried immense guilt. But she didn't stop. She found a way to reach me by sending money 10 cents at a time with messages crammed into the reference line. For 45 days straight, when I reinstalled social media, there were 631 couple reels waiting for me. I counted. She'd also sent a link early on. I opened it weeks later. 45 letters, one for every day we'd been apart. Each 400 to 500 words, written at 4 to 5 a.m. songs attached, confessions, longing, blame turned inward, then outward. She wrote that I was the only time she felt safe, that her spirals were my fault for not committing. that if she hadn't confessed, I would have stayed, that we didn't need love just conversation. I stopped reading after the 8th letter. It was too much. And now I sit with this crushing guilt. I don't hate her. I want her to heal, to thrive, to find stability in people who can meet her where she is. But I want to be alone, and I don't know how to move forward without feeling like the villain in someone else's survival story. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. What did you think about the story? Share in the comments.